All right, this video is to show you how to flip the class or a lesson or a subplan. This is actually take 2 for me. So on the other take, I zoomed into the camera because I want to show you how long this is going to take me. So I start at 35, so I've lost 2 minutes. And now I'm going to flip back around. Okay, so you're going to want some sort of note card or maybe a sheet of paper, but in order to flip, you kind of have to go through the CUD process. Or what do you want students to know and be able to do? So I recommend just starting with a really basic subplan or anchor activity as the first thing that you ever flip. And then, even though it seems very basic in your head, so the first one I flipped was a color wheel, which is very, very basic knowledge. I still had to go through, and every time I needed a student to learn a new skill or a new task, it had to go on a sticky note. So for example, if I were to save a color wheel, I had a sticky note that said I needed students to know how to get their supplies. And then I needed students to know how to mix a basic color. And then I needed students to know how to make a tint and how to make a shade. And then I needed them how to clean up. So every single thing I needed students to know and be able to do. The small exception in between like a regular CUD process and this process would be you want to include things that are logistical for a student that you would normally say in a class. All right, you're going to want to pause this video, take time to decide what you're going to flip, and then you're going to make a sticky note for each new thing the student needs to learn. Okay, once you know what you want students to be able to know and be able to do, so you have it all on your little sticky notes, you've included any sort of logistical component that you would normally teach in the actual classroom is also in here. And then if you haven't already done it, you're going to want to include a sticky note on how they are going to be assessed. So now that you have all these sticky notes with everything written out on them, you're going to make decisions based on the age group of the student that you teach and the clientele, like what you know about your actual students. So for example, this happens to be, I described a student example. This happens to be the subplan that I have available. And so how I broke it down is it just tells them step by step what to do here. And then the actual doing is on the same sheet of paper as is the scoring information. When I flip my classroom for an 8th grader, they are very, at least for my experience, like very like shiny sparkly, like they have a attention span of a gnat. So I broke this process down into 3-minute chunks of learning. And for example, I separated out how to use the hot glue gun from how to use the cutting supplies from how to then build with those components. Whereas if you looked at my 9th grade videos, and I will have these resources in the room, and then you're welcome to email me and get them digitally as well. My 9th grade students want to have the whole picture. They don't see a problem with a 15-minute informational video that then allows them to work independently for several days. So that's where you determine, do I do a video per sticky note? Can I combine my sticky notes together? Okay, so you've determined what you want students to know and be able to do. You've created them in some sort of sticky note fashion so they're easy to move around. You've then determined which could be clumped together. The next thing you want to do is create some sort of order. So when you're filming or when you're working, what component needs to happen when. This will then give you a video order for what you're doing. Okay, here is the hard part. Your gut response is going to be, you're going to take like a Saturday and you're just going to make your videos, and 8 hours later you will have like 15 minutes of content. Do not do that. You need to take, even if it disrupts your whole schedule, you need to take 1 or 2 classes, or you need to decide that this is something that you're going to make this year for use next year, or if you teach a semester course, however it is. But I can't reiterate enough, you want to teach this before you record. Otherwise, you will make videos that don't function, because there's something about that like live audience of having to teach students that causes your teacher brain to ignite, and it leads to good videos, quick videos, and it makes this process doable. So for example, for my color wheel, I had a class that became my guinea pig. I taught them. They helped me naturally figure out the way that I would teach it again. That night then I just sat down and went boom, 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 boom videos and did everything in order, and I had it all clumped, and I just turned on and off the machine as I went, and I only get 2 takes. Like right now, I am surviving on the fact that I am not doing another take because I already started again. Okay, so you've made your videos, you've created your CUD process of what they need to do. You've created some sort of a handout for your student to guide them through this process so they don't need you to know what to do next. So for example, my 8th graders need this to actually say, for step 2, watch the video. Whereas my 9th graders are just, they're trained to that, and it's a little bit more organic in the process. Once you have created your backlog of videos and you have your resources, then you have to change the structure of your classroom. Okay, so we're gonna start with how you have students come in. You're gonna wanna build some sort of routine. So I'm just using my classroom as an example. They come in the front door, that shelving unit that you see, they put their books right on that unit or on that shelf. They know that if there's some sort of handout they're supposed to pick up, it is located here. Then depending on the course, their supplies have a specific spot they're located. So those happen to be my 9th grade supplies. Behind me, the 8th graders have a lot more supplies. They're back behind. They are trained to immediately stop and stare at the screen. So, and how I make sure that they do this, by the way, is I will send a class out of my room over and over again until, like, I'll just say, okay, out. And then and then outside my room, I'm like, okay, when we come into the room, what do we need to do? We need to look at the screen. Okay, so we're gonna try again. And I do that as many times as necessary until they are just like the shiniest, sparkliest kid in the world. I got trained to just stop right here and stare at the screen. So it tells me exactly what to do. Put my books on the shelf, pick up my shading sheet. This happens to be my sub-plan for tomorrow. Pick up my shading sheet, pick up my drawing drawer, which happens to be right here. I'm supposed to go to YouTube. If I need the videos or headsets, those supplies are all over right here as well. I'm gonna find my own space to work. They then know that they have a purpose of why they are doing it is what they're doing. I'll be honest with you, when there's a sub here, I keep this very basic. When it's me, it's much more weaved into the Bloom's taxonomy. And because different students, because when it's me, different students will have different purposes on different days based on the step that they are on, I provide the purposes for them on the packet, and then they are trained to the fact that I'm not gonna sign off on their packet unless they prove that they have fulfilled the learning purpose. So I have multiple different ways that I've done that, and if you have questions about that, you're welcome to email me and I can show you some of those examples of how to do quick little formative assessments. So they read their purpose for the day. Anything that's important or FYI, I put down in the bottom in red, and then that's it. They go get their stuff out, they're trained to go watch the videos, and you do want to practice this. You want to train them to this before a sub. If you just give this to a sub, this is never gonna happen. So you train them to this, and then your sub-plan will work. And that's kind of it. Once you try out a sub-plan, or an anchor activity, try teaching with that strategy. And then once you start to see all of those benefits come out that I talked about earlier in the presentation, you'll get addicted to this and you'll want to do it more and more. You're welcome to contact me at johanna.russell@ankenyschools.com because I would love to help you. But now I gotta show you what time it is because I told you I do these in 15 minutes. So hold on. So, I'm slightly over. So if we look at my clock, I was allowed 1 retake, that was it. I did it in the beginning. I started at 35 and I am now at 48. So I will tell you that I should be able to have these posted and running by, well, like the computer wanting to post them in the next 10 minutes. So thank you. Okay, I realize, quick side note, I forgot something. So how do I keep track of the students? Well, what I do is, aligned with their packet, I have a board, and each student has a magnet that has their picture and their name on it. And then the student is required to move along at a certain pace, which my arrow's in the wrong spot, but for today they had to be on step 6. Otherwise, I have an incentive program in my room where if they don't learn at the correct rate, that's fine, that's totally fine, but it does mean that they are gonna work closely with me and they aren't allowed to have freedoms, which means I don't have kids that just don't do their work. Instead, like, only the kids that genuinely need help in order to be successful are kind of left for me to help teach them individually. Then to deal with questions that come up, I do have a take a number system, and then this is like a ask and answer, and then I also have a take 5 with the JROS, that's what they call me, which is if students need more of my time. So these are cards that students can use for checkout for 5 minutes of my time. And I can get more into how I actually organize the classroom later, but I think this is very teacher specific and student specific.